Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod.
You don't get the leader you need, you get the leader you deserve. What did I do?
Politics and happiness. They don't always go together.
The whole country is angry.
Yeah.
Arthur Brooks, happiness guru at The Atlantic, says we can still like each other, even in an election year. There's hope.
What we need to demand right now is somebody who is not going to be beholden to the 5% extremes.
And a sweet small business story. The pandemic pastime that turned into a viral hit, Rise Doughnuts.
That's chocolate buttercream, brown butter vanilla. That is roasted pineapple, which are made with fresh Honeyglow pineapples.
Plus, Jobs Day in America, the battle over sky-high CEO pay, and CNBC reporter Brian Schwartz on the surprising West Coast fundraiser.
$12 million for Trump in San Francisco is a pretty good number.
It's Friday, June 7th, 2024.
National Donut Day, folks. National Donut Day.
Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, and it's Friday. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin. And yesterday, you saw the Dow.
First up today on the podcast, the latest jobs report.
It's the big jobs report.
The Labor Department released its employment numbers for May, and the U.S. economy added way more jobs than expected, 272,000. The unemployment rate rose to 4%, breaking an historic streak of nearly 2.5 years below the psychological threshold of that number. So a strong report, but one giant question remains. How long will the Federal Reserve hold benchmark interest rates at their high level, currently at a range of 5.25% to 5.5%? The Fed is looking for a market where demand for workers has caught up to supply. A report as strong as this one almost certainly locks in another Fed decision next week to keep rates at their 2-decade high. Let's get back to the show. Joe Kernen broke down the numbers with our economics reporter, Steve Liesman.
That is going away, the probability of a rate cut declining because we're just not getting the weakness. Perhaps we should be celebrating, but not if you're hoping.
We don't have the stagflation. But
no.
What I still don't understand is why the Fed keeps saying the risks are symmetric on the two mandates. Where is the risk for this? Why do they have to be worried about a slowdown? And, too bad it went to 4%, because that looks like unemployment's going up, but it's really not.
Can I just correct you, Joe? This is the English major in me talking.
Yeah.
They say the risks are coming into better balance, which is a little bit different from saying the risks are symmetric.
Do you believe that the risks of being too tight are as much as the risk of inflation coming back?
I still think the Fed can cut. I think Lagarde showed the way, that you can do a limited cut, that you're extremely restrictive, and you can tweak a little bit at the top and come off.
At 270, GameStop, I mean, where do you see things cooling in the economy?
I am not including GameStop in my macroeconomic analysis.
And you need to.
Roaring Kitty is not one of my favorite forecasters.
NVIDIA, $3 trillion in the NASDAQ at an all-time high.
I mean, look, if you have an AI boom, why should the government or the Fed stop it?
Where's
if it's
the AI
happening?
boom except in their chips? Nobody else is making any money from it. They're just spending
That's
money.
true. That is true.
Netflix shareholders voting to recommend approval of a refreshed executive pay plan. That's just a year after the company's last proposal was rejected. The non-binding vote was in favor of both of Netflix's co-CEOs receiving target pay of up to $40 million each. A previous compensation package would have allowed executives to choose how they allocate pay between cash and stock options. That was rejected last year amid a strike by the Writers Guild. The new comp plan calls for base salaries of $3 million for each of those CEOs, with a target bonus of $6 million. The remainder of that $40 million in total compensation would come in the form of restricted stock awards, Netflix shares sitting just below $650.
Longtime Tesla investor Cathie Wood weighing in on Elon Musk's pay package. In a series of posts on X, Wood makes the case for reauthorizing Musk's pay. She points out that in the 2018 agreement, board members probably considered that Elon would work for no comp over 5 to 10 years if he failed. But she said that he did not fail. He succeeded spectacularly and should be rewarded accordingly. She said it would be unconscionable for shareholders to renege on Musk's pay package after they'd already taken and overcome the risks associated with Tesla's rise. The stock, of course, up more than 650% since that 2018 pay package was announced.
You have emphasized over and over how you're on sort of on Elon's side, or at least on the side of right, in that these were very aggressive numbers he had to hit, and once you hit them, if you've made an agreement, you ought to get paid on it. If you've said that.
An agreement that the shareholders already voted.
Which I'm gratified, because I think it just is a no-brainer that that's the only position that you should take. But I'm just wondering, when you walk in that other building, are people going? Because every year they do the CEO shaming for compensation, and this is so outsized compared to. Have you felt any different?
Only when I go to lunch with Ann Lipton.
Yeah, exactly. No, but if you are purely a person that wants an egalitarian, a virtuous person who wants an egalitarian society, nobody needs that kind of compensation, right? I mean, you can make that. You know, Elizabeth Warren would make that case. But so how did you come down on my side on this?
I'm a man of the law.
Okay. You think it's a...
But however, you should know, talking about being a man of the law, obviously there's a judge who doesn't think that this is legal.
Exactly.
So
but that was a bizarre bizarre judicial ruling. I thought it was too hefty of a pay package at the beginning, but I thought there was no
32 felony counts now?
No, I'm talking.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant that. I thought you meant that bizarre judge.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Delaware court. It was.
We're surrounded by craziness.
It was approved by shareholders and the board.
Yeah.
I thought it was a rich pay package at first. I thought he'd never hit all of those metrics. He did.
We will keep our eyes on all of this.
Are you voting for Trump? Donald Trump hates freedom.
Venture capitalists David Sachs and Chamath Palihapitiya hosted a fundraiser for Donald Trump last night in San Francisco. The former president reportedly raised $12 million at the event. Our very own Brian Schwartz joins us right now with more on this. What happened last night? This was a big fundraiser.
It's a big event. There were expected to be about 50 people there at David Sachs's place in San Francisco. Harmeet Dillon, who's an attorney, a Republican attorney based in California, put out on social media that the Winklevoss twins were there. She said that there were crypto representatives there. People from Coinbase were there. Some pretty big players in this tech crypto space were at that event last night. According to her, she was there. She's taking pictures of the event. So it's pretty notable in a way, because it goes back to what we've been talking about for a while, which is this shift by some people in these industries, particularly tech, toward Donald Trump. And $12 million for Trump in San Francisco is a pretty good number. That's not bad. I think some people thought it could be a little bit more, but that's a pretty solid number for Trump out in that part of the country.
The report is that in the last 6 days, it's $400 million.
That he's raised that much.
$400 million. Miriam Adelson, 100 of that from her, but in 6 days, where does that put the standing totals?
Well, I'm not sure it's 400 million. The reports are that case. It's interesting because I think it's indicative of the larger fundraising success he has had post that conviction. If we go back to look at that.
Right, but he was way, way behind.
That's right, and he's been starting to come back.
Is he above now or even?
I think when the numbers come out, the official numbers with the Federal Election Commission will be filed
close
in the next month or so. It's going to at least show that it's closer. Okay. And before, again, pre-conviction, May, we were talking about Biden, dunking on Trump's fundraising efforts, and now he has just surged. And I don't think it's just, to be fair, the conviction. I think he has raised that.
When you hear that these are crypto people who are involved in it, too.
That's right.
That tells you a little bit about it.
I think it's more.
Well, he's been very public, by the way, about saying, I'm going to help the crypto community. That's his whole, I mean, not his whole, but that's one of his sort of new planks,
that's right,
if you will.
And the other day, yesterday, I spoke to, over email, Mark Cuban, the billionaire at Dallas Mavericks Center, and I was talking to him about, what's going on here in the tech community. He would have insight into this. And, what he said to me was, his big concern, and he is a Biden supporter, is that he believes that Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, and how he's been handling crypto, how he's been taking on the crypto industry, really could hurt Biden at the end of the day, particularly with young entrepreneurs, young voters. I think that's really indicative. And I think that if people around Biden's camp are kind of seeing this and seeing that there are people going toward Trump from the tech world, and I think in a way it's kind of raising alarms, per what Cuban was saying to me, that basically, these are young, people who use crypto in a large part are younger people.
Raising the alarms in terms of what it may mean for the SEC's action, or
I think it might be just for the election. I think it just means we're all raise alarms for what could happen with the election.
But it's not necessarily going to change any of the SEC actions.
Correct. But again, that's the key, right? What influence this is really going to have at the SEC. But in terms of the election itself, I think there are thoughts that maybe some of these people might actually go to Donald Trump because of what Gary Gensler is doing at the SEC. That's the theory, at least, coming from Mark Cuban, maybe others.
Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
Friday in June is like better than a Friday in like February.
Yes.
So it's in the donuts. And then you throw in the donuts.
Getting towards the longest day of the year in terms of sunlight from where we are, which I walked out this morning and you see the hints of light.
Well, when you go to bed, don't you have to draw? I have to draw the curtains when I go to bed.
No, because I don't go to bed at the same time you do.
Well, you should.
I'm up until like 10.
That's not healthy.
That's why I'm grouchy.
And you too. But he's, at some shishi establishment every night with movers and shakers, right?
As it would be.
Pretty much.
As it would be. You've not mentioned what today is.
Donut Day.
National Donut Day, folks. National Donut
Andrew's
Day.
favorite day of the year.
It is one of my favorite days of the year.
It's been a tough week for me. People send me Taco Bell. I can't eat it. We got donuts. I'm not eating. I'm not eating it. I'm doing no carbs.
No carbs today?
None
on
at all.
National Donut Day?
None at all. None at all. Couple pistachio nuts.
That's my treat. You should have saved up all your carbs for the week just for today.
I'm saving them up for maybe a margarita tonight.
Next on Squawk Pod, are we all just a little too angry this election year? Harvard professor Arthur Brooks on why we can't just get along.
Our media culture has told us that we can substitute actually being active in our communities for yelling at our TVs.
This is Squawk Pod. Here's Joe Kernen.
Stand by, Joe. Here's Mike. Hugh.
Let's bring in Arthur Brooks, American Enterprise Institute President Emeritus, Harvard University professor. Thanks for joining us. I'll start with a disclaimer. I'm extremely happy.
Are you?
On a Friday in June, we talked about, I can't have any donuts, but I'm happy because I'm learning what I need to do to, all health comes from getting your weight under control. It really does. You need to, at a certain age, and you'll be happier.
Is that what you're doing and it's going well?
I'm just not eating any carbs. But
I see.
And so I'm happy, and you got your family. It's not all about what's going on in Washington. So I'm totally happy. But my question is, it's like just under 5 months, I think, to the election. Is there a way for us to find overall happiness with what we're facing for the next 4.5 months and what we're going to be subjected to?
Yeah, I mean, the political climate is designed to make us less happy. We are the product in this country, and the reason for that is that unhappiness and hatred and bitterness, they create a lot of political energy, and that's what mobilizes people to get involved in politics. The other problem that we have is that our media culture has told us that we can substitute actually being active in our communities for yelling at our TVs. And so that's what a lot of people consider to be a good citizen. I'm going to watch TV at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I'm going to watch the most partisan stuff that I possibly can. I'm going to get angry, and I'm going to send something on social media about it, and that makes me a good citizen. No, that makes me more miserable. That makes other people more miserable, but my misery sells advertising dollars, and so we are the product in this particular culture.
My basic premise is that each side has so many problems with the candidate being put up by the other side that they can barely talk to each other. And they're both just as committed to their viewpoint on both sides. Yeah. And I want to blame someone for that. I don't know whether to blame a faction in the Democratic Party for why we're stuck there and with who the successor would be, even if it's not him. Or on the other side, you've got the 30% of the hardliners that really do love Donald Trump. So I want to blame someone for that, but sometimes there's an expression, you don't get the leader you need, you get the leader you deserve. What did I do? What did, as an American people, what did we do to deserve this choice where both sides made Faustian deals.
Yeah, back when Ed Koch, he was winning again and again here in New York City, and he finally lost. And in his concession speech, he said, the people have spoken, and now they're going to pay. Because you get the leaders that you actually deserve, because in a democratic society.
Then we suck as a people.
Well, no. What happens is that we go through these waves where we tend to be more dominated by the extremes, and then we come back toward the center, and we're in more the extreme situation right now, especially because of a lot of the outside circumstances that have driven us to the extremes, like the incredible loneliness and sort of mass psychotic break that was the pandemic. That's why this period looks an awful lot like the late 60s and early 1970s with respect to political polarization. And what we need to wait for, what we need to demand right now is somebody who is not going to be beholden to the 5% extremes on either side of the political parties in this country.
Like that anymore?
I see this a lot at the local level.
At the local level.
Here's the amazing thing. I travel. I'm on the road 48 weeks a year talking about happiness, and so I'm talking to. I was last night in Midland, Michigan, and the mayor of Midland, Michigan was there, and I talked to her for a long time, and I have no idea what party she belongs to. She loves her city, and she loves the people, and I see this all over the place at medium-sized places and cities as well. I see governors who are more like this. This is where we need to look, and this is where we need to get involved. Stop watching the information complex.
The practical situation which we're living in right now.
Yeah.
Which is, I get what you're saying about local and the future. Like the here and now.
Yeah. 4.5 months.
The whole country is angry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anger. I don't think there should be all the anger that there is, but there is. And it probably is going to get even worse.
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, the problem with the anger, what we see actually is a more underlying malaise in the country that's being expressed. It's funny, you're married, and you notice that there's a kind of an underlying problem, and then it breaks out into a fight because you left the cap off the toothpaste tube or something like that. The elections and the political culture are a way for us to vent, to express our anger about this. So a lot of people have a big concern about the general cultural decline in this country.
Right.
Yeah, there's basically just 3 things you need to know about American culture. Number 1, live however you want. Number 2, don't tell me what to think. And number 3, keep your hands off my kids. That's kind of what it comes down to with most Americans. And we have people that are violating that all over the place. And people are scared and they're angry about it. And we project all that fear and anger and anxiety onto elections and onto candidates. And yeah, I know the candidates are inadequate. We're not getting the kind of people that we want. And we'll project it onto the political views of our neighbors.
But Arthur, both sides have been put into a position where they both have to swallow really horrible facts about their candidate.
Yeah.
And they both sides have arranged these, and I mentioned it earlier, Faustian bargains. Biden is there because Clyburn had to stop Bernie Sanders. The 30% that love Donald, they really do love Donald Trump. They love him. They think he's work. But no other candidate could win without that 30. So we're both stuck. Trump people have to say, yeah, I'm okay with a felony. I'm okay with a porn star. Biden people have to say, I know that he's barely still with us, and he, in terms of mentally, and I know all this other. They both have to pretend that there's nothing wrong with their candidate.
Yeah.
And it puts us in a really bad position.
And that's
pointing at the other.
Absolutely. We see this frequently throughout history. Usually it happens about once every 50 years. We go through these cycles in American history. And what happens is that we don't like our person, but we're more afraid of the other person. And so there's a dislike on our side, but there's a real fear of the other side. And that's being ginned up by the political culture that we actually see. And
social media.
Social media and
so does that make sense to you, though?
Yeah, of course it makes sense because you can get into a suboptimal equilibrium. Now, you could say it doesn't make sense because this isn't what people want. And the truth is, like Herb Stein used to say, the famous economist, things that can't go on forever won't. And so we won't put up with this forever.
So
we
what's
will
an
break out.
example? You said this happens every 50 years. What would be the 50-year ago example, and what happened after?
Okay, what generally happens is you finally get a breakout leader who says, don't you want something better? You get the kind of breakout leader who says, I'm going to...
You're saying that's in 2028?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. 2028 would be the perfect time. And again, it looks like it's been going on and on and on.
If it's not broken before then, though.
What?
If it's not broken before then.
Yeah, it's like that we're not that close. Look, good news. capitalism still reigns.
Yeah.
The free enterprise system is what really maintains this country. We're still going to work. We're still driving on the correct side of the road. We're still paying for our groceries.
The anger, though, I'm amazed. Yesterday, a few miles from my house, 25-mile-an-hour street.
Yeah.
I'm not the most conservative driver. I didn't pull out in traffic at a T-stop.
Yeah.
The lady behind me started honking and then started screaming out the window all these obscenities. I was shocked. I looked around. I wasn't sure she was talking to me.
And she was talking to you.
It's a couple of miles
So
from my house.
you had a couple chances to turn and you didn't?
No, I didn't. I was there for 10 seconds.
Really?
I was there for 10 seconds.
See, if people don't turn when they have a chance,
No,
I
this was 10
get
seconds. Not even.
It was actually Joe behind you.
That was me and
Can I ask you a question?
I don't want progressive tracking how I'm driving because I'm not the most conservative driver, but it's 25 miles an hour and literally rolls down her window and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
But that's not because of our politics.
Well, let me. That's not. I don't know. I don't know if that's from the politics or not. But I have a political question. I know you're going to say this is politically
I can
minded.
see it coming. You're going to find a way of saying that Trump is objectively so much worse than Biden.
Well, no,
How is that possible that he has people
I
that
think
support
there's
him?
no.
It's gonna be
Here's
the
what I'm
same
going to
old
say.
same old stuff.
I think there's one candidate that spews a sense
Here
of
we go.
hatred, of genuine hatred.
You want me to describe why people don't like? But
No,
we just talked about how both sides have their reasons for not liking the other candidate.
I think it's impossible to say that somehow that both sides are completely the same. They're just not.
I agree.
One's a
I think
convicted
one is
felon,
much
the other isn't at this point. But my question to you is how you think about that. Meaning, you do have one candidate. You have one candidate who, by the way, clearly has a genuine age issue. We can debate the other side of that. And what you think that means for the country and so the culture.
And a 20-year influence peddling scheme to enrich himself. You want me to go on?
Enrich themselves and the family.
Yeah, and the family.
And the family of the actual president.
He already had billions.
But my question to you is about what you think it means to the country. We had a president, by the way, for 4 years who did, I think you would argue, spew hate. Maybe you would say I'm wrong. Maybe you say he was not hateful at all.
As incomes rose 16% versus being down for the past 3 years, that president, as the border was closed, as there was no geopolitical problems, that president is who you're talking about?
Solve this.
So one candidate is more volatile. One candidate actually is the kind of person that represents in his rhetoric something that's more extreme than the other, for sure. Everybody knows that.
But you talk about character all the time.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
Tell me the problem.
What people are really concerned about is the general degradation of our culture and what it means for the future of our country and what it means for their kids.
How do you think the culture got that way? How do you think the culture got that way?
Original question.
The culture got that way because we weren't watching the store, Andrew.
Right, but we also had a president for 4 years who was hating every single day online and on television. If you don't think that changed the culture of this country.
Yeah, but that's subverting his presidency from day one with a Russia hoax that the New York Times won Pulitzer Prizes for. From every single week, you had another it never stopped. His presidency was sabotaged from day one by people that didn't want him there.
Let's talk about what people are experiencing outside of politics, and that's really leading to a lot of the malaise. When you talk to people, for example, about what they experienced during the coronavirus epidemic with their families, they were watching what their kids were learning in public schools on the Zoom screen. That has nothing to do with the rhetoric of Donald Trump. As much as I can't stand the rhetoric of Donald Trump, they were watching their kids' math teacher talk to them about activism and protest and stuff that they consider to be radically unpatriotic. That's the degradation of the culture they become cognizant of, and that's what they're worried about. That's what's really bringing down this country at this particular time.
And you're suggesting that was the responsibility of a different political party? Because if I recall,
what I'm suggesting is that
President Trump backed vaccines and President Trump shut down the country.
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is
I'm not
that
sure
those
what you're getting
political
at.
principles that actually got, for example, Glenn Youngkin elected in Virginia, those are the policies that are being promoted by the political party that has less extreme political rhetoric at the level of the presidential candidate. So you see, it's a different problem.
But at the same time, Glenn Youngkin would tell you that he doesn't even want you to be able to get access to contraception. So then there's a whole question in this country about what is going on.
That's not what they're saying. That's not what they're saying.
That's not what they're saying?
No.
What are they
saying? Not saying that they don't want access to contraception.
But that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. That's what Glenn Youngkin. That's part of the Glenn Youngkin plank.
He's not even.
So it's sort of unclear what's really happening here.
Look, you're your father. You got kids. You're worried about the future of the country that they're going to grow up in.
Yes,
you're worried
deeply.
About it. And you realize that you've got presidential candidates that are not up to the task of actually leading the country in a way that can bring us together and create a country that's better for your kids.
I agree.
That's the problem. And there are different ways to manifest that problem by just spouting off and saying crazy things or being completely inadequate to the job of president. I don't care what the problem is. They're both problems, and that's what people are worried about. Now, that's the mood as we go into the debates. And so all we can do, basically, is to look at the debates as some sort of car crash happening in front of us and hope we get some entertainment value from it.
Right.
But what we really need are leaders who say, I'm going to help us get a lot done to make progress. I'm going to bring the country together. And if you don't want it, then I'm the wrong guy. That's the kind of leader that we need.
It's just,
and we haven't had in a long time.
It gets on when it's a very divided country. Half of your fellow citizens are supporting, in your view, the Antichrist. Let them do it. Let them have their opinion that they want to back him for whatever reason, and they've got reasons not to vote for Biden. They're entitled to that. And I don't think you ever give them that. They're deplorable. No, Jamie Dimon tried to tell you that over in Davos, right? Do not pigeonhole
I would not start quoting Jamie Dimon because I don't think that.
I'm not saying he's a Trump supporter. I'm saying that he was saying don't vilify and denigrate and condescend to people.
That part is true.
And to your point, by the way. What's that?
I'd vote for you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. America's not ready for a bald president. You know, there's
who do we have?
Somebody I was talking to that I love a lot lately said something really interesting that speaks to your point, and yours, by the way. She said, I can't stand Trump, but I really like the people who love him. Isn't that interesting? There's a big difference, right? I bet you understand that.
No.
I bet that you understand the people who really like Trump and who really follow Trump or who are really looking to Trump, notwithstanding the negative feelings that you have about Trump, because those are the people who are worried about their kids.
Did she grow up?
I struggle with it because of what I see as the misinformation. I believe there's a lot of people who are misinformed, genuinely misinformed about the facts of what's actually happening.
Did she grow up in the Midwest?
No.
We started with saying both sides feel the same way about the. I can start with Joe Biden. I'll go on.
We'll continue.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, Happy Donut Day.
I want to become the Dave Portnoy, by the way, of donuts. You know, one bite, everybody knows the rules. I don't know if there's anyone who's taken that spot yet.
The rise of Rise Donuts. What started as a pandemic hobby has turned into a sweet sensation. Mighty Quinn's chef turned pastry businessman Hugh Mangum joins us.
There's something about donuts, I think, in the midst of the pandemic that people saw donuts and went bonkers.
Welcome back to Squawk Pod.
You are watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernen and Becky Quick. Today is National Donut Day. It is literally one of my favorite days. I can't say it's my favorite day because you say like anniversary, children.
No,
I think you're just saying that. I've never seen you as excited as the day.
You thought about the anniversary and
I was thinking anniversary, children born.
But you've already said this is your favorite day, so it's too late.
Joining us right now to celebrate this and share a fascinating story is Hugh, Mangum, and Lori Malone, the co-founders of Rise Donuts. It's a donut store that I happened to go to randomly when you first opened, and the line was out the door. I mean, it was sort of a crazy situation, and then you've blown up on Instagram and everywhere else, and people will come far and wide. I know people who will drive hours out of their way just to get online. I hope the lines have gotten better, I'm told, but that's because you've opened up longer.
Yeah, I mean, the weekends are still pretty nutty, but we're now open 7 days a week, so I think that, just the availability to get them every day makes it a little easier, yes.
So I don't know. I want to become the Dave Portnoy, by the way, of donuts. One bite, everybody knows the rules. I don't know if there's anyone who's taken that spot yet. Just speak to how you created this whole company and what happened.
I guess, the simple kind of answer to that was we were all, in the midst of the pandemic. We were at home, Laura, myself, and our three boys, Quinn, Lucas, and Henry. Henry wanted to make some donuts, or actually wanted to make churros, and we didn't have the pastry tip to make churros, so he made donuts. They were pretty good. And then Quinn, our eldest son, wanted to make donuts. He made donuts. They were better. And then Laura and I were like, well, throw down, let's go. And so we started making donuts. And a couple weeks later, after tweaking and playing around with the donut recipe at the house, we just decided to, launch a pop-up. had no expectations other than like just a creative outlet, get out of the house, do something. And people showed up. We didn't expect, well, I should say I didn't expect that we would sell a lot of donuts. I thought it was gonna be kind of New York style, like people coming and grab a donut or two, but where we were in Wilton, Connecticut, people were buying by the dozens. So we sold out that first day in 28 minutes, and it took us 3 hours to fulfill those orders because it was crazy.
But when did the social media thing sort of happen for you? Because it does seem like it sort of blew up.
Yeah, it did. I mean, what happened was we literally just started an Instagram account called Rise Donut on that first day, and didn't kind of tie our names to it. Both of us are chefs by trade. We've been doing this for north of 20 years. We have restaurants. We didn't tie anything to it. We just started a donut account, and there's something about donuts, I think in the midst of the pandemic, that people saw donuts and were like, went bonkers, and it caught on, and I don't know what algorithms or anything, like I don't know any of that. That's not
now.
our
Do you
specialty.
test? I mean, I try to eat donuts wherever I am just to see, and I believe these may be the best donuts in the country. And I know that's a big statement to be made.
We believe that as well.
But do you go around now to other donut places to try to? How would you review and
We've
judge?
We've always traveled for donuts. I mean, we love donuts. So,
Okay, so
we're filling our own void when we started this.
Yeah, we realized that we had this.
Don't look like you eat donuts all the time. Like, I am dying to eat these donuts, but I'm afraid.
That's what these donuts do. So
We balance it with other things.
But yeah, we realized that wherever we went and traveled over the 20 years, 20 plus years we've been together, we always, no matter what town we were in, we would try donuts. And it just kind of came, it was like this theme that why not, make some donuts ourselves and then just try to beat those donuts that we had that were like our favorite versions, like the fritters. We were trying to beat the best fritter we ever had.
So let's just
I
tell
need to
everybody
know, what is that? What is
This
on?
is actually one of your favorites.
That's my favorite one.
Which
What's
is the
on top?
Aztec
Is that
cinnamon.
like
It's
cinnamon?
an
Aztec
Aztec
cinnamon, and it's outrageous.
What in
That's
chocolate?
chocolate buttercream, brown butter
Glaze.
vanilla. That is roasted pineapple, which are made with fresh Honey Glow pineapples.
that a
Those are
fritter?
honey blueberry. And then those are Misfits, which are basically our take on a braided donut that have brown butter, Aztec, and dark chocolate and sea salt. And then the apple fritters, which are made, everything is made by hand, but the apple fritters are very lovingly made. They take a long time, which is why we only run them a couple days.
I think it's
I walked in here saying I was eating none of this. I don't know how I'm getting out of here.
No, I'm not.
Lovingly made. How long does it take to make that?
So our apple fritters, every week we make our batch is 160 pounds of apples.
Right.
Goes into what amounts to 300 apple fritters, or no, I'm sorry, like 30 dozen apple fritters, and that takes us generally 3 to 4 hours to make those alone. Just
So-
those one
Without
thing.
even the hours of chopping and cooking.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Just the dough.
small business question. Has this become easier for you? Is it harder? Have your costs gone up? What's happening in the donut world right now?
Yeah, I would say that in certain respects, we have streamlined operations so that we've learned how to make things, much more efficiently. What's become more difficult is that Laura and I never set out to be business owners. We're chefs. So the business part is the stuff that's you stumble upon and you learn new things and how to form an LLC and I got to pay these bills and this taxes and that's the stuff you learn about. But the food part
How many
has.
employees?
Currently, we're roughly around 15 employees all in.
Are your kids still involved?
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Remarkably.
Quinn looks- yeah.
And do you? What's the long-term hope? Would you want to do multiple stores? Would you?
Yes. So we're currently in the process of looking at our second location. It's TBD. There's a couple of different spots. New York is actually one of them that's involved right now coming into the city. So probably sometime in the next 12 months, we'll get our second shop open. Beyond that, we definitely want to go larger than that, but we want to do it in a very responsible way.
Right.
Definitely.
Guys, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
These
you
donuts,
so much.
I'm super excited for you, and I will tell you that first line. I waited on this line for it might have been. It was a long line. I mean,
Those
hours.
lines
We're
were
talking
crazy.
hours, and I kept saying to everybody online, is this really worth it? This whole thing seems crazy. And then I ate the donuts, and it was
This all
it
makes
was
me
amazing.
It all makes me depressed unless we get a Roman trough right over there. That's the only.
Okay, so
because
let's
I'm
eat a
not-
donut,
Huh?
people.
I think
Come
you
on. We got
Vomitor.
at least. What do you think?
I would do a fritter because you can pull it
Wait,
apart.
Make sure you get a donut if you do nothing else today. We will see you on Monday.
Can't do it. Not gonna do it.
Sugared up or sugar free.
Not gonna do it.
And that's Squawk Pod for today and for the week. Another busy one we have earned this Friday. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen. Becky Quick and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. Follow Squawk Pod to get the best of our show anytime. And let us know what you think. Rate or review Squawk Pod on Apple Podcasts or reach out to us on social media. We're on X at Squawk CNBC. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, and we'll meet you right back here on Monday.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.